Well, let's not beat around the bush. We're into our second podcast this week, and that's because footy is back in a big way tonight. Well, kind of. Practice matches anyway, which is better than nothing. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. I'm Sergio Paradise, and this bloke here, who is visibly pumped, I should tell you, it's Titus O'Reilly.
That's the peptides.
It is.
Is it too soon?
What,
I'm just looking
to joke about them?
Well, I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah.
Just the commentators and various pundits and all this stuff just going on about how great it is to see these players back after all they've been through.
Oh,
and it's like, well, hang on. These guys didn't go through sort of,
No, they haven't gone to
They had their own. They had a bit of a hand in what happened,
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway,
as much as there's a game on tonight, Collingwood, Eston, you think, I've been thinking, it's only a practice match, but is there some way that we can have it that neither side wins tonight?
Do you think Collingwood can carry on their form from the women's competition? I think there's every chance.
I hope so, because if they get beaten by Essendon tonight, the jungle drums will start beating already for Buckley, because it'll be from every Collingwood supporter.
Well, I think
they can't even beat Essendon, and they haven't played for a year.
But I think a lot of the Collingwood, I think Collingwood have put in a pretty weak team.
They
think
left out Pendlebury.
I think they've left out quite a few good players. So I think you're seeing a full strength Essendon against
2/3 strength Collingwood, and even them, they've got a couple of good names back, but whether they'll be any good or not.
Well, I think a full strength Collingwood is still only 2/3 of a normal side. We should thank. We announced the last podcast that we were launching the ability for people to become supporters of this podcast.
Yes.
And quite a few people have. So we want to say a big thank you to the people that signed up as supporters, where you can give sort of a monthly amount to us, and helps us to keep doing this.
Yes, to keep us surviving. Yeah, thanks for that.
And to the people who aren't supporters, well, you can thank the supporters too, because they're the ones that help us cover our costs.
And enabling you to listen for free.
That's right. Yeah. So just go to TitusO'Reilly.com, and there's a support button there you can go to, and you can choose to be a bronze, silver, or gold subscriber.
Yeah.
And the higher up you go, you get some
get extras.
So, which we're going to add to. We were actually talking before we came on air about planning our tour and some ideas for that. So, subscribers would get early access to tickets and things like that.
Stuff like that. And as you say, there's gold, silver and bronze. We're also talking we might go have a platinum category, which isn't on the website yet, but we might just pop round to your house and talk crap for an hour.
You had to go on a date with Sergio.
You come right after you've cleaned my pool.
Now, you and I have actually been out this morning. We left the house, and we went and saw Angela Hippos launch her book.
Yes,
Breaking the Mould.
Yes, taking a hammer to sexism in sport, which is
right.
Something close to our hearts.
I thought that it had all been fixed with the AFL Women's being launched, but apparently it's not totally gone.
Apparently still
but she's going to come and be a guest next week.
Next Thursday, we're going to be talking to the great Angela Hippos.
So that will be good. It's timely to talk to her about that.
Should I tell you? And she's been a sports journo for at least 20 years, ABC, radio here. Everyone sort of knows her. She's a mad Adelaide Crows fan. She's from Adelaide originally. And she loves the Crows
and
more than life itself.
And she still loves football.
She still loves football. She still loves the Crows.
So that'll be good. But when we were driving back from it, we drove past Punt Road Oval.
We did.
And the Tigers were training. Which a while ago you said you never saw them training whenever you drove past, so you assumed they didn't train. But they were training.
They were out there. They were doing a bit of match practice.
And you could tell from they were doing match practice, and it was actually quite realistic because they were losing.
In an intra-club match.
Oh, zing. It's a simple joke, but it does move. Now, I'm in a very good mood today.
Are you?
Oh.
I should point out he's been drinking at the book launch.
And not just because I've been both drinking whiskey and coffee, is also the fact that yesterday Mike Fitzpatrick, AFL chair, resigned.
Yeah, gee.
He's gone.
Yeah, that was sad news, wasn't it?
Oh, I cannot bring it in my heart to really say much good about Mike Fitzpatrick.
He just comes across completely. I've never known a man with less warmth or empathy for people than Mike Fitzpatrick.
Well, the thing that what baffled me about his reign, and it was like, what was a decade in the job or something. So a lot of people were in there. If people were putting together their tick, marks against what he's done, one that a lot of people had, which is kind of almost damning, is he managed to stay in the game, the position 10 years. And you're hanging on is not like the definition of good leadership. Yeah. He didn't get sacked in that time, then on top
although to be fair, very hard to get sacked from the AFL.
Oh, especially if you're a good bloke.
Yeah.
Now on top of that, they also he seemed to. The thing that was my problem with him is he came out and they said, "What do you think is your greatest achievement?" And it was all about how financially well the game was and how well it done under him, and then the signing the TV rights deal. Now, the TV rights deal is one thing, but in the current climate globally of the way TV broadcast deals for sport are going, where live sport is one of the few things that still works for advertising.
It's about the only thing that does.
It would be amazing if you have to actually stuff things up like the NRL did in your negotiations to actually get these things to not make money. It's like running a government in the boom times and claiming you did like a global boom time and then claiming you did an amazing job managing the economy. So that's the one thing he points to.
And the big media rights deal. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's Gillan McLachlan did most of the wheeling and dealing there. Now, Gillan is your master wheeler dealer negotiator. Gillan just looks like if he wasn't in that job.
And that's why he got the job.
Yeah, but if he wasn't doing that job, he'd be perfectly well suited,
selling cars.
On the floor at Brighton Toyota or somewhere, Yeah, you can say, Gillan, he'll sell you a car. But Mike Fitzpatrick, not that kind of guy. You know how Mike Fitzpatrick makes sour cream? He just gets a glass of milk and stares at it.
Well, it was funny. The reaction was... So here's a few things I had with it where I thought Mike Fitzpatrick was a failure as chair.
Yeah.
So... Look, he provided stability, I guess, in that he was there a long time.
Yeah.
And the game has gone well in that time, but I think a lot of that is they haven't mismanaged things.
No.
It's not like he's the worst ever. You read the history of the AFL and clubs and stuff, and you've seen over years bad administrations run the game almost into the ground. So they certainly didn't do that. So they get a tick for that, and financially they've done well. But I think a lot of that is, they got a great product to sell, and that great product partly comes from some of their work, but also the fact that we all show up and care about it.
People love the game and love their clubs.
So that's why you can sell these big things. It's not out of the goodness of their heart or they just talk them into giving all this money over. It's all an equation of how much ads they can sell. So there's that. But then when you think of some of the things that he's overseen and probably not done a great job of is the Essendon supplements scandal is a huge thing.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, now, I'm not in the case where it's like, I think Essendon made it very hard for the AFL to manage it fairly well. I think they did the opposite of what Cronulla did up in Sydney. They really fought everything. They didn't take any...
And everyone was both the AFL and Essendon, they were in uncharted waters for all this, so nobody really knew. But
there was a lot where they were like bringing John Wiley to try and negotiate outcomes and trying to do deals and all.
Fitzpatrick, is very happy with the way they handled it.
He's very happy.
They never, and this goes back to Demetrio's era. They have never been wrong about anything, and they will never admit to being wrong. Now that's a strength in some. Things, but it's a weakness in others.
And then on top of that, they say he also was there during the whole West Coast illicit drug stuff, and they never really hammered that or faced up to that. He's had conflict of interest with various stadiums he's involved with, ANZ Stadium
this is the big one, I reckon.
It's just been amazing that's been allowed to go on. It forced the Swans to play out of a rubbish arena that
nobody wants to go to.
Yeah. And so he did that. Yeah. They then have completely allowed Queensland as a footy state to go from being a powerhouse with Brisbane to just being a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, just completely taking their eye off the board there. He was key on the Adam Goodes booing controversy. He was one of the key ones that did not come out forcefully in any way, shape or form. And in fact, if anything, every signal he gave out was he thought Goods had brought it on himself.
Yeah, I think that's what I say is total lack of empathy and understanding. I think he was hopeless.
But I don't think he was just silent. I think it was very much he just didn't buy that there was any racism. He thought Goods had. That was my take on himself. And then on top of that, he also was the same when the Caroline Wilson drowning stuff happened. He was like deadly silent on that. In fact, well, not deadly silent. He basically said there'll be no punishment and they're not going to like. He stood for nothing there, which is interesting now when he comes out. On the other hand,
though, what punishment could the AFL give to media performers?
They can demand that they do it all the time. They demand that he take a couple of weeks off. I mean, you know, they do that stuff all the time. I mean, even Channel 7, to their credit, as weak as anything, pulled BT off TV for a few weeks and said he was going to counselling and stuff when he called Harry Taylor a poofter on live TV. So, you know, there's all these things where they were just as weak as anything on that.
Conspicuously silent.
Yeah, and it's a pattern of behaviour. And then on top of it, my issue there is you can't then come out and say, oh, we're so proud of the AFL women's and all that, like, which they have done grudgingly. Gillan McLaughlin is the one that brought the timeline forward. Yep. The actual commission and that were like, not do it to, like, I think 2020 or something was the date. It was Gillan needs all the credit. He's the one that dragged that kicking and screaming forward.
I reckon most of the commission would have been just as happy for it to occur perhaps sometime down the track, but they can't really be bothered now. And then now they'll all be putting their hand up saying, oh, yeah, weren't we?
Yeah, that's terrific, right. And then the other thing that he did that I thought was like really showed his character is they were trying to actively, and I mean, just think about this for a second, right? The AFL were trying to engineer an outcome where arguably the biggest star in the game, Buddy Franklin, goes to their expansion team in Greater Western Sydney. Yeah. They had it all ready. It was all going that way. This is the independent commission. Yeah. Right? Wanting a team to move a star player from one to their own team that they're trying to get going, who they've already given enormous amounts of draft picks and things to, which he's overcooked that slightly. Yeah. He then, when he finds out that the Swans legally, 100% legally...
Yeah, there was nothing underhand. It was
nothing. That was the thing that was...
Business and recruiting.
Beat him to the punch. Yeah. He rings and abuses Richard Collis, who's the chair at the time, and then subsequently puts a trading ban on them, which has they've still never justified. No. They've still never, because we all know it's because he felt he reacted like, because he felt he didn't get what he wanted. It was a classic, and he's an independent he's an independent chairman. Like,
allegedly.
Like, how does that just blows my mind that wasn't a bigger deal. And I mean, and the thing is, it's not, a lot of people were like, oh, suck it to the Swans because they got cola. I'm like, if he could have done that to anyone, like, just happened to any club that annoyed him. Like a chairman of an independent commission of sport interfering into player movement directly like that and putting a ban on. I mean, he should have been sacked there and then. It was the
whole commission should have been hauled, I don't know, before another commission or something, just to have let that whole thing go on.
And Collis described him yesterday. He said,
I've never met Richard Collis, but I really like him.
He said, I was surprised. Fitzpatrick came out and said, I'm really surprised about that phone call became public. Yeah. And Collis in response said, if Mike was surprised that it was made public, I was surprised that he behaved like a thug and a bully. It was more like dealing with a mafia don than a football head. I thought it said a lot about the individual and the way he operated. Asked to comment on Fitzpatrick's legacy, Collis said, I have no comment.
There you go. That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Anyway, I just think, and I also think the other thing that underneath, so this is is until Gillan came in, and I don't mean this to turn into a love fest for Gillan, but it just more shows how he could come in and do very easy things to make himself differentiate himself from under Demetrio and Fitzpatrick.
A couple of mafia dons.
We got to the stage, about 3 years ago, where we had a terrible schedule that completely screwed over fans and put money and TV rights out. We had in complete disenfranchisement with the fans and the sport. Crowds weren't going as well. People were really getting sick of
$9.80 for a schooner.
Yeah, food was everything. And to the point where the fans were over AFL, and that was on Fitzpatrick's watch.
Yeah.
And then it was only when Gillen got in and just looked at it a bit, and very easy just started to not even do that much, but just go, I'll just be slightly less dismissive of the fans, and everyone hails him like a saviour because he's just not as bad.
Yeah.
I mean, credit to him as well, but it was pretty easy for him to make himself. It's like following someone who's terrible. It's pretty easy.
Oh, that's right.
So all this idea that he's done an amazing job, I just looked like, and then my favourite, which I forgot, and people reminded me on Twitter yesterday when I was talking to people about this, and shows you I probably suppressed this memory. What about when they banned Melbourne or fined Melbourne for being not guilty of tanking?
Yes, they didn't tank, but they were fined all the same.
This is the justice system in the AFL under Fitzpatrick. It was no transparency, and just the trade ban and the tanking stuff, and a lot of the Essendon stuff too, just with no transparency of how you got to where you got to.
And just on the Melbourne tanking thing, the late Dean Bailey, he was not found guilty for any tanking offences when he was coaching Melbourne, but he was effectively run out of town.
Yeah.
And ended up getting a job at the Crows, which was great. But he was run out of town. And just on the other one as well, what did you say about the
trade ban?
Yeah, the trade ban. The whole thing is just so, as you say, the lack of transparency. And you know what I'll be interested to see come out soon, because it probably won't come out soon, is the AFL's internal investigation on how they handled the Essendon saga.
Yeah.
How good's that going to be?
Well, the thing is,
a bit like Channel 7 and Tim Warner.
The problem with a lot of what he did with some of those things, is it actually plays into a narrative that I don't think is always true, which is the AFL are always corrupt. I don't actually think the AFL are, I always say to people...
Corrupt's a strong word.
Yeah, but there's this thing that people think it's all a conspiracy with the AFL and it's all spins. And I actually think it's not as full on as everyone makes out. I think a lot of the time they're trying to manage a bunch of stakeholders who all are doing stupid and crazy things, and they're just reacting, right? So I think sometimes it gets overplayed how much they're sort of Machiavellian able to... I just don't think they're capable of running great conspiracies, to be honest.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't...
To run a good conspiracy, you've got to have not only a lot of people be in on it, but they've all got to be very sharp, and the whole thing has to be planned with military precision.
Yeah.
And we all know that that doesn't happen in big organisations, especially when there's football clubs involved.
And so I just don't think the AFL are as bad, actually, as everyone says. But when he does things like he's done over his tenure, it actually plays into that and gives some ammunition to the people who really do believe that it's... I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think they're above trying to have a conspiracy. I just don't think they got the skill. But, I mean, look, I'm not saying it's been an absolute disaster with him, but it's not him alone. The commission as a whole have stopped him being able to do something.
But he won't be remembered fondly.
Not by the average punter.
No.
I mean, he won't, he oversaw a lot of things that most... And he's two of his biggest things, which are the Giants and the Suns, very much the jury's still out.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's a multi-generational thing and all that, but the jury is out on those two things. So, look, they come into being successful in 10 years. Maybe people look back and go, had a bit of...
Giants, I mean, they're knocking on the door already.
Yeah, but they're going to win grand finals, but they barely... I mean, as much as all the spin, they barely attract a crowd.
Yeah.
And they're costing tens of millions of dollars a year.
Even if they win the flag this year, they'll still be lucky to get 10,000
I don't mind the GWS Giants existing, right? I'm not actually one of the people that I can see growing the game and all that sort of stuff. But the idea that they're a success, there's success on the field and good on them because the Suns haven't managed it well, but they've managed it well. But they've had massive opportunity. I
think they've had over 50 top 10 draft picks.
Some of the guys they've let go. Superstars, are going to go and be superstars at other clubs, like their first rounders, But they have managed it well when Gold Coast hasn't. But you can't claim they're a success.
No.
I mean, I think they should be around, and I think it's good that the fans that are there now. But the idea that there's sort of this success in Sydney, most people in Sydney wouldn't even know they existed.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, when you go up to Sydney and talk to people. So the new head
Richard
Goyder, who was head of West Farmers, that own a bunch of Bunnings,
Coles, Target, Kmart, all that.
I tell you what, prices are going down. He's going to have to turn that right around to run the AFL. The AFL haven't put prices down on anything for a long time.
Oh, not since the pie went from $5.30 to $4.80.
Yeah, and it was a huge deal. But he's going to have to get used to it. Now, apparently, he doesn't live and is, in Victoria.
How's that going to work?
This is where I think a lot of the AFL media are like, there's an outside of Victoria?
Yeah.
Really?
No such thing as, I don't know.
He's actually a...
Skype or
he's actually
planes?
He's a Dockers supporter. He was on the board of the Dockers. He's a Dockers fan. And despite that, he still likes football. So... He's
hung in there. I mean, you've got to hand it to him. He especially after last season, he could have very easily just walked away from the whole thing.
Do you think he's going to whack a trading ban on the Eagles? I can see that happening. Now, one thing of Fitzpatrick's legacy will be constant rule tinkering.
Oh, yeah.
And he even said his greatest regret was not getting one of the rules right.
I think the minimum or maximum interchange.
Yeah, the interchange. Yeah. So of all his tinkering and,
is there
that's what he said is his greatest regret.
That changes the rules as often as AFL does?
I don't think so.
There couldn't be.
I think there's tweaks. Like American football is very complex and they do a lot of tweaks and stuff to their rules, but...
Oh, but you look at soccer and rugby.
Well, rugby, some of the other sports have regularly tinkered and like leagues tinkered, I don't think league tinkers as often, but it's had some big tinkering. When they went from unlimited tackle to 4 tackles to limited, and then they went to 6 in a row. Like, they're pretty big changes to a sport.
I suppose cricket's only one was the front foot on the bowling.
Cricket keeps changing its format more than its actual rules, like all that sort of stuff. But they're looking at changing the deliberate rush behind rule. Now, there's a lot of controversy last year about not enforcing it, whether it was deliberate or not when you rush it behind. They're looking to do in the JLT pre-season series. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue?
Do we know what JLT even stands for?
Nope.
Can we go back to the Escort Cup or the handset?
I keep saying
the Panasonic Cup.
I keep saying I need to Google what GLT actually is.
JLT, I don't know.
Because I absolutely have no idea
Not a clue.
what they're talking about there.
Which you've got to say, from a marketing point of view, hasn't been brilliantly handled by the JLT organisation.
No.
Nobody knows who they are.
They could sell anything. It's not good, is it?
No.
So anyway, they're going to be trialling from tonight. That instead of so what used to happen is you rush it, but they never called it almost ever. But if you did rush it behind,
a deliberate
when you weren't under pressure, etc., the opposition would get a free kick on the goal line,
which is a free goal.
Which is a goal, like you'd have to be Travis Cloak to miss from there. So anyway, now they're changing it to have a thing where instead a blue mark will be painted 14 metres out from the goal.
Why does it have to be 14?
Oh,
why not 15?
And why blue? And there's 1,000 things here. This is the ideas session that is the AFL, where they all some crack over a beer and go,
justifying their own existence.
Now, what will happen is from that dot 14 metres out, I think sort of dead in front on the blue mark, they're going to have painted. And don't we just need another line on there? Wait till they bring in zones and everything. If it's found to be deliberately rushed, the umpire will take the ball back to this mark and for a ball up. Right. So instead of giving them instantly a goal, it'll be a ball up, but in a very favourable position but not really, because then they'll just whack it through for another ball.
Which will deliberately whack it through. It's like if the fullback, when kicking out, crosses the goal, the 10-metre square line, and the umpire calls it back, and then bounces the ball, gives it a ball up right at the end of the goal square.
Yeah.
And again, the ruckman jumps up and punches it through for a behind.
Well, it says here, it's understood the reason for the change is because some at AFL headquarters believe a free kick from the goal line is too harsh a penalty. I love that some, could have been the work experience kid. Just...
I reckon it was the guy in charge of painting blue spots on the ground.
Someone who's got a bit of a thing in blue paint. Got a bit of an interest.
Mike Fitzpatrick doesn't own any paint companies, does he?
That's right. So anyway, that's where we get to on that. So I think I mean, look,
We'll wait
I
and see.
don't hate that rule. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. No. But I sort of think, like, a rush behind is a rush behind. You should be able to rush behind. Like, just because they knee-jerk react to the Hawks. Well, the Hawks were smart and used a bit of the game. Teams would have come up with ways of, you know, like...
Well, if a backman handballs it through from 6 metres out...
Yeah,
but there may be. But if you pick it up and you can see you...
But they were just doing
nowhere to go if you back through or run through.
But remember what they were doing is they were waiting till... They'd, like, say a point had been kicked.
Yeah.
They'd get the ball. This is Hawthorn in that grand final.
Yeah.
They'd then wait till it was time to play on and kick out, and then they would just run it back through for a behind-weight time. I mean, you could ban that practice. Yeah. I mean, like, but you can't, like, do that.
Well,
like,
you wouldn't even need to create a new rule to ban that practice. You just penalise them for deliberate time wasting.
Yeah, that's right. Like, call it time wasting. What it is, not like
the rule already exists. You don't need a whole.
To me, if you wanted to concede a behind.
Yeah.
And you can't just keep doing it. But if you wanted to concede a harm when it's in your own, like, and I don't reckon it. I just reckon that should be okay. That's been in our game for like 100+ years, and suddenly everyone's acting like it's the death of the game.
You're taking the risk that
now we need a blue dot.
Yeah, well, you know, you concede a couple of behinds. Well, you know, it might come back to bite you if you lose by 3 points or 2 points. You know, that's the risk you take.
It's just, you know, it's anyway. Now. Old friend of the show, Grant Hackett, and we have to qualify this with, this is a very sad story, because that's what I've heard every media outlet does. But, well, you don't think there's a lot of laughs in this?
Well, not as... It's certainly not as funny as...
Why don't you like making fun of mental health?
As the nipple cripple incident, or when he lost his kid at the casino. And as I always say... That's a serious gambler to lose your child in a casino.
The thing about this is what I found. So for people that don't know, Grant Hackett turned up at his folks' place yesterday, abusive, and got got arrested. They called the police on him, and he then also showed later on. He posted a thing with a black eye, saying, "Well, my family are acting like I'm the problem. Here's what my brother did. He beat me up." Which is pretty bad if you're an Olympic athlete and your brother's beating you up.
Well, have you ever seen Grant Hackett up close? He's a big, intimidating man.
Yeah. But the thing I've actually have found amusing about this, so it's not particularly amusing watching someone completely have a mental breakdown in public, right?
Right. But there is a funny side.
But we can all, learn to laugh about it. But what I found funny is the coverage of it.
Right.
Which is people keep saying, well, this is obviously the final straw. You know, there's been a few columns I've already read where they said he's now gone too far.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, losing your kids in the casino wasn't the bit where you go too far? Like
rock bottom.
It's kind of like, you know.
How much further is there to go?
Yeah, like there's... And now he's saying, I need help. Well, yeah, we know that. We've all known that for a long time. I'm not saying that makes it easy or anything, but, you know, this is a pattern of fairly long-term behaviour now.
Yeah, it's been a few years now.
We've had the nipple cripple on the plane. We've had the... But
smashing up the grand piano in the apartment.
Yeah, I mean, quite disturbing behaviour over a long period of time. And, you know, the fact he's obviously mentally got enormous struggles is a worry. But, I mean, I kind of also have a lot of sympathy for the people he's affecting.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the kids being left in the casino.
Yeah.
The wife watching him destroy a piano and whatever else. There's a lot of litany of...
No, nobody should ever destroy a good musical instrument.
Well, I think someone was playing Billy Joel on it. Which,
it was a crown. There was every chance there was a bit of some dodgy cabaret singer.
That's right. So, but I do think, there's kind of... I think Hackett's... This isn't like he's now past some point of no return. Like, he's been here for a long time. Yeah. Like, a long time.
Oh, and it's not like he completely lost it and was incoherent last night. He spoke to reporters afterwards when the cops let him go, and he actually said, I need to do something about it. He's got a
major substance abuse problem. I mean,
his parents and his brother, it's mainly grog. He can't handle his drink.
Yeah, right.
And there might be a bit of Stillnox or prescription woven in.
Hasn't Stillnox got a bad branding image problem in Australia?
The Australian sport has done Stillnox no favours.
I don't think Stillnox has done Australian sport any favours either. Speaking of someone who...
he's a natural segue.
Daniel Kerr, former West Coast Eagle. He's returning back to the game he loves, it says here, to get his life back on track.
So he's come back to play footy. Daniel Kerr, for those who don't know, he's had a fair whack over the years. I mean,
I'm laughing at the suggestion that his life was once on track. Because this is Daniel Kerr's rap sheet. He spent and these are just some of the high-profile ones,
yeah.
He spent several days in jail last year for breaching a violent restraining order taken out by his former wife. So I got to say, I know we've got to be very good these days about men talking about mental illness and that, but you're beating up your partner. I don't have a lot of sympathy for you.
Well,
I mean, I'm sorry.
I agree.
I kind of don't. You kind of like there.
That's one instance where you can't play the mental health card.
Well, I mean, maybe you can, maybe that's part of it, but you're still a dick. You're still someone that, you
build up your wife or kids,
and
you're a dickhead.
You kind of cross a line I don't really care about. I mean, it's like in life often, you know the reason someone's doing what they're doing, but at some point you've got to focus also on the outcome.
Yeah.
You can't always just focus on like, oh, well, it's because of this. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to go, but that's because of...
But who cares? Everybody does these days. It's always somebody else's fault.
Now, he also, in a separate case, he was given a 12-month suspended jail term for threatening to set fire to two acquaintances at a house in Perth in November 2014. So I think
suspended term because he threatened. If he'd actually talked to them,
done it, apparently, he sounds like a wonderful. He's a great guy.
And back in the West Coast Eagles illicit drugs era, which was never totally confirmed. Despite,
I think it has now.
Yeah, it's Ben Cousins,
even the people involved.
Chris Mainwaring, unfortunately died. I mean.
Yeah. I think it's well documented now.
Kerr was, pretty much up to his neck in it.
Well, I'm just glad that John Morsford has never been let back in another club. So the thing here, and let me just
what's
say,
he doing?
So we've explained, his rap sheet and that Daniel Kerr is not a nice person, and so to get his life back on track, this is what he's going to do. And I just want you, Serge, to give me your views of whether you think this is a good way to get your life back on track.
Okay, I'm listening.
It said that he's teamed up with high-profile manager Ricky Nixon.
That's a good start.
For 14 appearances over the coming season with more than 14 country teams that he's going to go play for, with another 30 clubs on a waiting list for his service.
So he's just going to play a game of footy with a different club each week.
Like Fev does.
Yeah, but Fev seems to play a game here, a game there, and then a whole season with someone.
But what I don't get here is, what are these clubs doing hiring someone who's committed for, like, got a restraining order taken out against his wife and he breaches it. He's got violent behaviour against women. Why are these clubs hiring this guy?
And he wouldn't come cheap. And
and he's shown no real resort. Like, I remember he did that footy show. Like, the idea is someone who's like remorseful and clean to slate, or he's never shown any of that.
But apart from that, what's in it for the footy clubs other than perhaps he'll help them win that particular game? And
why would you want him in your club? What are you saying to all the other, like, people, your juniors and women, if you want to have a women's team, which they're all getting onto, and all this sort of stuff, like, and you want funding from the AFL and things like that. Like, why? I mean, I know
you and you got Ricky Nixon thrown into the mix, who's probably stitching up the deals.
I've heard
with
the
footy
AFL
clubs
come out against this, and I kind of think when they want to take all the credit for the AFL women's and not comment on this or say, now I might be wrong, they might have come out and comment, I haven't seen it yet, but why would you not say, we don't approve of this, and those clubs will be looking at their funding?
See, there used to be lots of rules that were encompassing all clubs and competitions across the country to stop things like this, where you could not just change clubs week to week to week to stop a mercenary type just doing that.
Yeah,
you had to get clearances and
there's actually rules.
There were rules, but it seems now that if you're a former player or somebody with the ability to attract attention from junior or suburban clubs, that you can just go from one team to another week in, week out to the highest bidder. It's a bit like the Big Bash League, just mercenary.
But for people who have sort of gone out on bad terms.
Yeah.
Now, talking of switching clubs, what about switching countries?
Oh, this is good. I love this.
So, an Olympic bronze medalist, Australian, a guy by the name of Shane Perkins, has defected to Russia to keep his 2020 Tokyo dream alive. Now, whether Russia are going to be in the Olympics, given they're all doped up to the eyeballs.
But you got to say, what a great Russian name that is, Shane Perkins. Will they call him Perko in the Russian team? Surely.
Now, Perkins was cut by the Cycling Australia High Performance Program in the lead up to the Rio Games. And now he's trying to get Russian citizenship so he can, after they've said, yeah, we'll have you. So he's
Can you tell me why Russia? Why Russia?
Well, he knows some of the other Russian cyclists, and they said, come on board. But I can only assume that he wants to go to Russia because he wants to take enormous amounts of doping drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm guessing. I'm not disparaging and saying he is taking that. But why would you go? I mean, one, he's a traitor to our country.
Yeah.
He's a dual citizen. He's going to be a dual citizen. He's going to still live and train here.
Yeah.
But he is a traitor to our country. Don't get me wrong.
It's treasonous.
It's treasonous. He's gone to play. Like, why are we keeping him in the country? Like, see you later. If you like Russia so much,
go and live
in Russia.
Well, I think that's what he's about to do.
No, he's not. He's going to stay here.
He's a bit like Daniel Kerr then.
It's amazing
he's just going to play for Russia for one Olympic Games. Well,
what's Border Force doing? I mean, what's the point of... It's like, I've always thought this. We spend so much time trying to stop idiots coming in, but we do nothing about getting rid of the ones we've already got. Have you noticed that? Like, it's always we're looking the wrong way. We're looking out. We need to look in sometimes
we've
and
got
say...
more than enough idiots
but we need to
just shovel them out the door.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of having Manus Island if we're keeping all the idiots here in Australia? Like, let's do some swaps, one in, one out, you know? Like, and he should be the first to go.
Like at a nightclub. One bloke in, one bloke out.
That's right. Yeah. So, joining Russia is the equivalent of the nightclub is trying to start a fight or spilling your drink or something. Like, the blokes just should come up to him and go, you're out, mate. Yeah. Chuck him up in Manus Island, and at Manus Island you go, right, who's next? Yeah. You come in. That person might be great at soccer or
I was about
might
to say,
might be a scientist.
Not only do you welcome in that next person, but they can even jump the queue even further if they're good at sport.
Oh, if they're good
at sport, they shouldn't have to be a queue for them.
Well, there should be there's not even really a queue anyway because it's also disorganised. But if should be no borders for people wanting to come to us. I'm all for people wanting to change from their country to us. Yeah, but you don't expect Russia to like keep if someone defects from Russia to us, they don't stay in Russia.
No, you've got to come here. You've got to, But I'll tell you what, in Perko's defence...
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I still...
Here we go. Mr. Appeaser.
I did see this morning...
You're not being paid by Vladimir Putin. I've been worried about your Russian links in the lead up to this podcast.
You were worried I was being hacked. But
I've seen the dossier and what they've accused you of.
Yeah. None of it's true. And cleaning the pool... That's a euphemism. I saw this morning a whole bunch of Australian cyclists have come out in support of Perko. They were all saying he's been so badly shafted by Cycling Australia. They said the officials of Cycling Australia, they should be sent to Russia and keep Perko here.
I don't. You know what? I don't care, even if it's true. Yeah. We've all had tough times in life. We've all had the Australian government maybe treat us poorly in some way in decisions they make, but we don't go to Russia. We don't go to Russia.
You are very anti-Russian, aren't you?
Well, in sport, just in sport, without going into the litany of other things.
Generally.
Well, generally, but in sport.
They do not have a good track record. I'll admit that.
They basically run a state-sanctioned doping program. I mean,
and have done for decades.
It's not even a matter of suspicion. They've been suspended from every international thing. Why would you go there?
Well, that's the thing. As you said at the start of this story, even if Perko trains with the Russians for the next... Because that's his name. That's what the Russians call him.
I think it's now going to be called Perkov. Comrade Perkov.
Comrade Perkovich. Even if he trains with the Russians for the next 4 years and they pump him full of the juice, chances are the Russians won't beat the next.
Well, that's
games.
right. Like it's
the next one's Tokyo, isn't it?
And I got no sympathy. You don't join
the Russians.
The Russians.
Okay.
You don't defect. Why would Australia is the greatest country ever conceived in the entire history of time.
Right.
Like it's
Why
not even a debate. So the idea to leave, sure, we've got our problems, but we're still, and we're the greatest sporting nation that's ever graced God's earth.
Yeah. I bet you there's no sporting precinct in Moscow that can compare to the MCG, Rod Laver Arena.
Well, what about Adelaide Oval, the new Perth Stadium? Yeah. I mean, it's a bounty here in Australia.
Not as many velodromes here, admittedly, for Perko.
Well, anyway.
So I'm saying good luck to Perko. You hope he crashes and burns.
No, I won't. I'm saying deport him.
Deport him? Send him to Russia, never to come back?
I don't care if he goes to Russia or where, just deport him.
Okay.
Just get him out of here. He's already raced in a Russian uniform.
Has he?
Yeah.
How'd he go?
Oh, I don't know. I think
he didn't win.
I was too enraged once I saw the... I was like...
What's a Russian uniform? That's the one with a little bum bag in it that you keep your syringe in.
It's a sickle and a needle.
Was it
one new one?
Was it one of those bikes with the hidden
motor in it? Yes. He won by 20 minutes, and it was a sprint. Now, so something that's come up this week, the AFL women's. Last week we were watching Melbourne come back to beat Collingwood in the
AFLW.
In the AFLW on Saturday night, and there was a massive hit on Meg Downey where she was knocked out.
It was a crunch and a half, I've got to say.
Cheap shot.
Cheap shot from the Collingwood player.
And then given 2 weeks, but it
2 weeks.
Yeah,
that would cost her up to $30 or $40. 2 weeks is pension.
Well, and I think it works out because it's an 8-game
season. Oh yeah.
So when you think about it, she's been
25% of the season she's been rubbed out for.
Paul. So
and the other thing, just on that, it was something you never see with the men's footy is the girl from Collingwood sat there crying on the field after she knocked out the Melbourne player.
Oh, really?
She felt really bad about it. And like every player does, whether it's male or female, you never set out to go, I'm going to run through this player and knock them out. And so there's trainers there with neck braces and stuff.
I think Dermy will disagree with you there.
Oh, yeah, but Dermy's one of the...
And both him doing it and others doing it to him.
Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean. Now, there's been a bit of concern expressed by a few people that the women, after quite a few big hits, and this is one of them, that they're not that taught well enough or have learnt well enough yet about how to protect their head.
I agree with this totally.
And it was
Ty Kennelly.
Ty Kennelly was the one that came out and said it, and he got shot down instantly for being a sexist pig.
Yeah, but they're wrong.
But not everyone thought he was. Like, this is the thing. In fact, he got some support from the Melbourne Demons women's football operation manager, Debbie Lee, said she agreed that players actually need more education and technique-specific training about protecting their head. And she's saying it's not a gender thing, that they do need more training.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that's what Ty Kennelly was saying. He wasn't saying end women's football or they shouldn't play. He's saying, they certainly should play, and I just think they need more training in that area, which is, when you consider...
half of them have never... hardly ever played football of any standard before.
Well, that's right. Like they keep saying every time you listen to the commentary, they'll say, she was playing ultimate football like last year.
Yeah, or she's a netballer. She's a basketball star.
Or some of them, this is their 6th game ever of AFL. And so I don't think I don't think every time anyone ever says anything about like a criticism of the league, that it's always like, there is plenty of real criticism, like stupid criticism, don't get me wrong, but I don't think just because he's saying I don't think they're learned, and then he even said, coming from Gaelic football,
I was about to say,
he found he had to be taught it.
He's the one who can say this, because he did make that point. He said, I hadn't played AFL football as it stands when I came from Ireland. I had to be taught this.
Yeah.
And he's purely making the point, and I agree with him totally, and just the results in the first 2 weeks of the AFLW has shown that some of these girls, they're running in, they're hard for the footy, and that's great, but they haven't been taught and they haven't learnt because they haven't played enough of the game.
Yeah.
But
that's
how to
the
tuck your body in.
The Meg Downey one was just she just
Yeah,
that wasn't a
crunch.
you can't protect yourself when you're going for the ball and your opponent just cracks you.
Yeah.
I mean, but I agree with you. Some of the others have been a bit.
It's just lack of experience.
Yeah.
It's lack of experience.
I thought the standard between week 1 of the AFLW and the second week was a huge. It went up massively. Like there was like the nerves were gone a bit. They were a bit more like the standard was.
The games were.
It's still got a long way
open.
to go, but it was a lot more.
I heard that
entertaining.
A couple of the clubs after round 1 were told by the AFL up high, forget this defensive mindset. Just let them play.
See, but I don't get that. Like, what's the AFL doing that? Like, imagine the AFL. It's like when the AFL, when Andrew Demetrio told Paul Roos that the Sydney were boring and too defensive.
And we'll never win a premiership.
And they win a premiership. Yeah. Like, the AFL's job isn't to do what they do and tinker the rules, but it's not to tell you what style you want to play of football.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just. I thought a lot of it was just the fact that the nerves were gone.
Yeah.
They were all getting to know each other a little bit better.
The crowd's held up reasonably well. I mean, they're not going to get 25,000 to every game every week, but I reckon the crowd's held up pretty well for the second week.
Oh, it's a success, and it's something that needs to happen. And if it's, like we're further ahead than people thought it would be this quickly anyway, so we're ahead of the curve on where we thought we'd be. And
as much as we sometimes bag the AFL the things they do,
no, we wouldn't do that.
The fact, I reckon, that the AFL Women's League, as you just said, is 8 weeks long, and then the finals, was a very smart move.
Yeah.
And not just because, it stops before the men's season starts.
Yeah.
If they dragged on this first year to 18 rounds or something.
Yeah, and the players got tired.
It would have lost momentum. But they'll finish on the 8th, they'll have a big grand final, and then this time next year, they'll be back and bigger.
Yeah, and
ever.
Everyone will be looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So Bernard Tomic, our old friend, going through a greatest hits right now.
Yeah.
He lost to the world's number 140.
Right, where's Bernie ranked at the minute?
He's in the top
15?
Top 20, I think. Yeah. Sorry, he's not. He's 32. He's gone down a little bit.
Yeah, after the Australian Open.
After his Australian Open. Now, it was the first round of the Memphis Open. And
Is that one of the 4 Grand Slams, the Memphis Open?
Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking it's right up there. Now, it says here this was not only for... he lost to Darian King, who's from Barbados, that tennis powerhouse. And it was his first ever win on the ATP Tour for Kingy. And it was his first... It was also, of course, because I'm reading this article, it says it was his first win on the ATP Tour and his first over a top 50 opponent. Well, of course it is. It's his first win. So, so there you go, 140. So this stuff where everyone talks about Tomic's talent, and he just needs to knuckle down.
But he's after the last few weeks. I mean, he didn't want to play in the Davis Cup the other week, where his mate Nick Kyrgios carried the side, to the win, and he's gone over there to the Memphis Open, got beaten by this bloke. Is ranked 140 of the world. Where's he at? Oh, Bernie. Is he?
He's where he's always been at.
Oh, he's just,
I mean,
has he got a coach? Oh, it's his old man's his coach.
Is his old man still his coach?
I think so.
Oh, he came back, didn't he, after being banned for a while for hitting his trading partner.
That's right.
Just constant. Just constant.
There was a real touch of the Demir Dokic.
Don't they make you proud?
They do.
They really do.
Why don't you send him to Russia?
That's one defection I'd approve of.
Absolutely.
It's just, but at some point you go, look, if he might. They talk about the talent and everything, but he keeps losing. He lost to someone ranked number 156 before too, and he's got the fastest ever loss on the ATP Tour in history.
He's got some good records going. He's more frustrating than Kyrgios, Tomic.
This is where a sports commentator will say, look, the difference between his good and his bad is very big.
Yes.
Now, we talked last week about how the Germans, in the tennis, in the Fed Cup, they got
really upset.
A Nazi anthem. The Nazi era anthem got played instead of the modern
The third
German
verse of the German national anthem, which was banned decades ago, because it contains the phrase Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles, which was very synonymous with the Nazi regime.
And people have really gone off the Nazis.
Yeah,
not in America, but everywhere else.
They're making a comeback here and there. But the Germans aren't big on it still. So when the national anthem was played, naturally the Fed Cup, the German team were very upset about it.
Yeah.
And
very sensitive.
Well, a bit overly sensitive perhaps. But what made me interested in this was that it's not the first time that national anthems have been stuffed up in big-time competition. Even at the Rio Games last year, the American athletes were complaining that the Star-Spangled Banner that was played at the medal ceremonies, it sounded really down. They said it sounded really sad.
It was in a minor key.
Exactly correct. They looked into it, and they found that the orchestral arrangement that they'd recorded for the Rio Olympics had used all minor keys instead of major. And so
I think that reflects how we all feel when the USA do win something.
It was like if Leonard Cohen sang the Stars. Every time they came out, it was Leonard Cohen that sang it. And there was, but my all-time favourite, this is one I just found while I was looking into this, is in 2012 in Europe, there was a big shooting, competition.
Oh, right. I thought you were just stopping there. There was a big shooting.
It was a big shooting.
So way to bring the podcast down.
Yeah. No, 2012, there was a big shooting competition, and it was won by this rifle shooter from Kazakhstan.
Right.
And when he got up, instead of playing the correct Kazakhstani national anthem, they played the Borat version. I'm not kidding. Some guy has been told, "Oh, mate, you get all the anthems together, will you?"
He just Googled it.
Googled it, Kazakhstan national anthem, download, done, bang, press play. And instead, he's standing, the Kazakhstan shooter standing there with his gold medal around his neck, with his hand on his chest. And up comes, you hear Borat singing, "Kazakhstan, greatest country in the world. All other countries are run by little girls. Kazakhstan, #1 exporter of potassium." And it goes on and on.
You think
Kazakhstan, you very nice place. From plains of Tarashink to northern fence of Jewtown. So this is probably
completely politically incorrect.
Oh yeah, it's probably one of the greatest ever.
And how did they react?
Oh, this guy, I think he stood there in disbelief and then just walked off the stage, by which point somebody in the organising of this whole tournament has recognised that...
A huge Borat fan.
Yeah, he's obviously seen Borat a few times and gone, oh, this is going to be a hard one to explain. Do
you think, of all the sports tournaments that I'd want to make sure I got the anthems right, is a shooting one? You do not want to annoy a bunch of people with guns.
I was about to say a bloke carrying a double-barrelled shotgun.
I tell you what, lucky the Americans didn't win that one. They did not mix well with guns when they're angry.
No, it's been with Leonard Cohen singing the Star-Spangled Banner. So that was my favourite, the poor old Pakistan shooter.
Oh, that is not what you want.
No.
All right, well, we've got footy tonight. You and I are pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and all weekend. There's 4 games this weekend.
Yeah, we've the D's are playing Whitton Oval.
Yeah, playing against the Bulldogs. I'm still getting used to the fact, we're playing the Western Bulldogs. Oh, we're playing the reigning premiers.
Oh,
that's what I still...
Even Bulldogs fans...
I can't get my head around it.
I bumped into a Bulldogs fan I've known forever the other day and, still just beaming and goes, "Oh, I watched the grand final 2 nights ago."
I know. In that whole period over I guess most of January, where the Fox Footy just kept playing games at random, so it seemed.
Yeah.
Whenever the grand final from last year would come on, social media would light up.
Yeah.
Every Bulldog fan in Australia would start tweeting and Facebooking and just telling all the others, "You've got to switch it on now to watch it again." How many times have they watched it?
The one thing they'll say about the Bulldogs fans is that they're still so amazed it happened that they're not yet grating. But give them another few months.
That nasty arrogance of Hawthorn.
But once
supporters,
the season starts...
Yeah, all bets are off then.
It's all over. All right, well, we want to thank everyone our supporters who have put forward cold, hard cash towards us.
Yes, and feel free to continue.
You make us be able to do this regularly and do more things like shows, and we're going to try and get around. We really want to do Perth and Adelaide and Brisbane. And we want to do a national tour. And so supporters help us do that. So you can go on and for a price of a coffee a month, really help us be able to do this full time. So we do appreciate the supporters. We're going to be back Monday with our normal one, and then next Thursday we're going to have Angela Pipos on to talk about her book and sport in general.
Women's sport, but Monday we'll be back probably to review, I guess, the 4 games practice matches in the what is it? The what series?
I tell you what, we're really going to do: extrapolate from 4 meaningless preseason games, how each team's going to go this year.
Correct.
Because that's pretty much what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. We'll make full predictions after watching 4. Is it JLT? What's the series again?
On that note,
I'm still going to call it the Panasonic Cup.
That's right, the Ansett Cup. Well, we'll see you. We'll see you on Monday after an Ansett Cup.
After the Escort Cup.
See you then.